Good evening. I would like to call the Tuesday, September 3rd, Dalton City Council meeting to order. Mr. Lama will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic which stands God.
Council members, you have before you an agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, our agenda is approved. Moving on to public commentary. I have one card. If there are any other cards, please bring those forward now. If not, I will invite Wayne Russell to come to the podium over here, and please utilize the microphone so we can capture your comments for the record. Also, Mr. Russell, if you would share your address for the record too, please, sir. Thank you.
My name is Wayne Russell. I live at 1715 Brighton Way in Dalton, and that is off North Oaks Development and North Oaks subdivisions. Our concern as a group that we've come tonight, there is a commercial restaurant in our neighborhood called Coal Creek. It's at 101 North Oaks Drive. Next to that is several empty buildings. The owners of that building has leased it out to another company that we understand, or we've been told, is going to try to put in another convenience store, gas station, and deli. Now, if they do that, that's going to create a nightmare of traffic, which we already have up there because of the 534 residents that live and around Brighton Way. Now, those residents include all of North Oaks. There's 5 different homeowner associations, which I have their proxies to be able to talk to for them. And then we have on Brighton Way development, we have 68. So that makes a total of 534 homeowners. The fair market value of all those properties, including, this is not including the pools and clubhouses and everything, is close to over $125 million. So, you know, when our valuations, of course, have gone up, but we are very concerned if this comes before this city council. We would like for you guys to table this motion to make sure that who is trying to put in this convenience store, gas station, or whatever else, there's not enough room there. I don't know how they're going to get this proposed, or unless they're just going to try to ram it down our throats. There's a lot of walkers. Most of these people here, that represent Brighton Way. We've asked that all the North Oaks residents came and voice their opinion too. Now, while we've been here, Patty and I have talked to some of the other planning zonings that has to go for them before they can change a lot of that footprint for that property. I don't think that's been done, but we know that there's development, there's something going on in those buildings right now without prior approval. I know I only got 3 minutes. I could go into a lot more, but you know, I'm just trying to make sure that if it does come before you guys through planning zoning, please table this motion until everything is being completed.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. I would encourage you, and I will invite other council members to share any comments or feedback they wish with you. But I would encourage you to contact the planning and zoning office and ask them when their next meeting is, And the best thing that you can do to cover all your bases to be informed is to make sure you're attending those meetings. I believe they are once a month, but I would prefer that you confirm that and get those dates, times, and location from the zoning office.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anyone have anything else they wish to share? Okay.
Thanks for coming forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This evening, we do have two proclamations. At the conclusion of these, if anyone wishes to take photographs, we'll invite you to do that, and then we'll just take a brief break for people to leave if they wish. But we know it's warm in here. We're working on our air conditioning. We have some good news on that today, by the way. But you're also welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting. The first proclamation is Hunger Action Month for September of 2024. And I believe there is a representative from the Chattanooga Area Food Bank, Janine Carpenter. Yes. So I'm going to come right down here and we'll do this. I'm working tonight, so we. Okay. For Hunger Action Month, whereas hunger and poverty are a vital concern in Georgia, where 13.1% of people face hunger and 1 in every 5 children do not know where their next meal will come from. And whereas everyone needs nutritious food to thrive, and in every community in America, people are working hard to provide for themselves and their families. Yet in 2022, 44 million people, 1 in 7, including more than 13 million children, 1 in 5, faced food insecurity in the U.S., and that includes 15,720 in Whitfield County. And whereas the city of Dalton is committed to taking steps to combat hunger in every part of our community, and whereas the city of Dalton is committed to working with the Chattanooga Area Food Bank, a member of the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks, in educating people about the role and importance of food banks in addressing hunger and raising awareness of the need to devote more resources and attention to hunger issues. And whereas the month of September has been designated Hunger Action Month in order to bring attention to food insecurity in our communities and to enlist the public in the movement to end hunger by taking action, including volunteer shifts, social media shares, and donations to ensure every community and everybody in it has the food they need to thrive. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Mayor Annalise Sams, do hereby recognize September 2024 is Hunger Action Month in the city of Dalton, and I call this observance to the attention of our citizens. Thank you for being here.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So we'll give this, hang one second. Do that. All right, very cool. See, we can raise this up a little bit without breaking it. That works. Okay, Arden, Slayton, and Dylan, do you guys want to come up here? Okay. And your parents too, and siblings? Anybody that wants to come up here? And thank you for the necklace, Arden. Do you have any more? Did you give them all out? If you have more, I think the other council members want one when we're finished, okay? So, all right. And I think I mispronounced Zlatan. Yes, okay. Got it right that time. Okay. That's good. You've got a good view right there, buddy. All right. Got everybody up here? You want to come up? You want her to come back? Okay. All right. Thank you guys for being here this evening. This is a proclamation to acknowledge World Duchenne Awareness Day. Whereas Duchenne muscular dystrophy is the most common fatal genetic disorder diagnosed in childhood, affecting approximately 1 in every 5,000 live male births each year. And whereas the Duchenne gene is found on the X chromosome, it primarily affects boys. However, it occurs across all races and cultures. And whereas Duchenne results in progressive loss of strength and is caused by a mutation in the gene that encodes for dystrophin, because dystrophin is absent, the muscle cells are easily damaged. The progressive muscle weakness leads to serious medical problems, particularly issues relating to the heart and lungs. Whereas Duchenne can be passed from parent to child, but approximately 35% of cases occur because of a random spontaneous mutation. In other words, it can affect anyone. Although there are medical treatments that may help slow its progression, there is currently no cure for Duchenne. And whereas on September 7th, 2024, World Duchenne Awareness Day will take place. Duchenne organizations around the world will raise awareness for all people living with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Now, therefore, I, Annalise Sams, Mayor of the City of Dalton, hereby proclaim September 7th, 2024, as World Duchenne Awareness Day in the City of Dalton and encourage our residents to increase their understanding and awareness of Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And I've got one for all three families here, okay? All right, Arden. Okay, all right. Dylan, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you guys for being here. Okay. Council members, before you, you have the minutes of the mayor and council meeting of August 19th, 2024. I'll entertain a motion. Have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? New business. We have two alcohol beverage applications and we will do these separate. We will do these individually. Jesse, do you have the first one, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. The first one's going to be De Lo Mio Dominican Restaurant LLC, doing business as De Lo Mio Dominican Restaurant. The applicant's name is Francisca Mello. Location address is 116 West King Street. The license is being applied for pouring beer, wine, and liquor, and this is for a restaurant. We do have a representative.
Okay, and is there any condition upon this? Any further?
Madam Mayor, on this particular license application, the city has not been able to schedule an inspection of the facility, so the staff would just ask that the council consider the fact that the inspection still needs to be completed as part of any action.
Jonathan, can we do that with a condition? Okay. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve pending inspection by our inspection officers.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Do you have any questions or anything for any of us? Okay. Thank you for doing business in the city of Dalton. The next one, Jesse.
Thank you. The next one's going to be a business owner, All American Entertainment LLC, doing business as Big Time Builders and Cafe. The applicant's name is Charles Chase III. Location address is 1129 South Thorn Avenue. The license is being applied for pouring beer, wine, and liquor, and it's also for a restaurant.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chase.
Good evening, ma'am.
If there's anything that you would like to say, we would be very happy to listen. Do you have any questions of us?
It's been a little process to get here. Mr. Farrow was helpful with some sprinkler issues that I had to take care of in the building. That was a Family Dollar store.
Okay.
I've owned that property since 2001, ma'am. I built that store and Family Dollar stayed there until recently. So we're going to convert that into a restaurant that has alcohol and a few pool tables and continue to create jobs and pay taxes here in the city of Dalton.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. If any council members have any questions of Mr. Chase, I would invite you to ask him now. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Chase, for doing business in the city of Dalton.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thanks.
evening. Okay, next, council members, we have item number 6, renewal of Public Works Facilities floor cleaning contract with Spectra. Chad?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This request is to approve the carpet and tile cleaning contracts with Spectra Contract Flooring. Spectra has performed the floor cleaning services for a number of years at the Public Works facilities, and the contract price will remain the same as previous years. The price for the carpet cleaning is $4,113.22. And the price for the tile cleaning is $1,449.03. The only difference from previous year contracts is that we have asked to add a renewal option for up to 3 years, assuming that the price stays the same. And this comes with a positive recommendation from the Public Works Committee. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions of Chad? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move we approve. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Chad. Item number 7, temporary construction easement for 622 McFarland Avenue.
This request is to execute the temporary construction easement to complete the construction aspects of the Franklin and Valley Stormwater Bypass System project. This work is estimated to be completed within 24 months and expires upon the completion of the project. At that time, we will seek permanent drainage easements associated with the newly installed stormwater bypass system. And with that, I'll take any questions as well.
Madam Mayor, this involves property owned by my sister, Diane Farrow, so I'm gonna recuse myself from any vote on this.
Okay, thank you. That is noted. Any other council members have any comments or questions of Chad? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 8, GDOT contract 46 for funding of obstruction removal clearing on runway 32 approach and at Dalton Municipal Airport. Andrew?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I have here a funding contract from Georgia Department of Transportation. This is for our normal FAA annual non-primary entitlement. The original TA letter was approved back in 2022. This will cover an obstruction removal project. We're cutting down trees that have grown up into the approach end of runway 32 at the airport. This will cover the construction services in the next 2 items, which will be LRS management and also the engineering services as well during the project. Any questions on this one?
If there are no questions of Andrew, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item number 9, contract with LRS Land Services LLC. Oh. Yes,
Yes,
Uh,
this,
to remove trees from the approach, okay, and of runway 32 at the Dalton Municipal Airport.
yep, so this falls under that project. The cost is $54,830, which will be covered by GDOT funding contract 46. This was the lowest responsive bidder on this project. So
Okay, any questions of Andrew? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. You already got number 10 also.
one more.
Okay.
Yep.
Individual project order number 1 with Kimley Horn for construction admin inspection services during obstruction removal at Dalton Airport.
Yes, so this will be the engineering services during construction. The cost $38,985.73, also covered by GDOT funding contract 46.
Any questions of Andrew on this? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, now I can say thank you. Item number 11. First reading ordinance 24-29, the request of Edgar Rincon to rezone from transitional commercial C4 to general commercial C2, attractive land totaling 0.92 acres located at 908 Elk Street, Dalton, Georgia, parcel 12-257-02-028. Ethan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. The rezoning request before us was sought in order to rezone from the transitional commercial zone district to general commercial. The difference between those two, very briefly, is that the C4 district is intended to be essentially a buffer around the downtown area to permit the same types of uses that we have in the downtown central business district, but require conventional building setbacks and off-street parking. So the C2 general commercial zone district would have the same off-street parking requirements and similar setback requirements, but would allow for a broader spectrum of uses. And the petitioner's proposal is to essentially remodel the structure that is already on this property for the use of an event center. And based on the staff analysis and the maps as part of that show the aerial photos of the area, the existing state of the property, showing enough area, additional area in addition to the building to increase parking. And that was our biggest point of concern in the staff analysis. But based on existing development, previous rezonings in this area, and the zoning throughout this area, staff didn't identify any issues from this or with this from a zoning standpoint. And ultimately, again, any of these improvements will be required to meet those code sections for parking, which would include additional spaces. They would need to be either pervious pavers, cement, or asphalt, which the property could be improved, we believe, to accommodate quite a number of spaces. Petitioner also mentioned in the public hearing that they are in conversation with some adjacent property owners, some vacant property. And they may be able to use that also for overflow parking in the future should they exceed the property's parking capabilities if the business grows. With all that in consideration, the future development for this area is industrial. But what we're seeing in recent years, the redevelopment and investment in this area seems to be moving more toward commercial. So we didn't really see a conflict with the established development pattern and the comprehensive plan for the zoning at this location. So the staff report, their staff analysis was a recommendation for approval, and the planning commission recommendation was for approval, and we heard no opposition at the public hearing. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions of Ethan? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, excuse me. It's just a first reading. Thank you. Thank you,
My
Councilmember. Farrow.
question, I'm just trying to, is this geographically, I know there's some property in between this property and the blue colored, but is that the new neighborhood, the blue colored property?
Yes.
Yes, sir. That will be the plan or urban plan unit development that the Development Authority is working on. Yes, sir.
And you said that there may be some parking concerns with the future use of this property?
Currently, we believe that with improvements to the property, with remodeling and the permitting, the building process, that as they begin to convert the use from what it had been to this event center, that they'll need to improve the property itself, which there are 3 tracts. In fact, the 3 southern tracts of the subject property are undeveloped and can be developed for parking. So we believe that they would be able to accommodate quite a number of parking spaces on the property. We don't have a parking plan to do a thorough analysis of that, but we believe they can accommodate that.
Seems like a bad place for an event center right across from new housing, but we'll look at that.
What about, is there a way you can you can make the parking somehow condition,
Absolutely. Parking could be conditioned as part of the zoning and could be worded as such that the zoning may be approved, but that would be conditioned to any use of the property meeting the parking requirements in the unified zoning ordinance. And that would ensure that any of the square footage that they remodel internally would have to be accounted for in any additional parking. And with a condition that would go with the property and any future owner.
guess you couldn't go so far as requiring a parking plan. Or could you?
It potentially could be tabled and I would think that the council could request that a parking plan be provided prior to a final decision if that is a concern of the council.
Proximity of the new neighborhood.
Well,
is
so
concerning.
I've been on this property and I would comment, and I don't disagree about the UPUD. The properties that are just to the east, so I don't have numbers, but just to the east of this site plan, they provide is it a car repair shop? It's commercial. I'm trying to think what exactly is there, but
They're not repair shop.
there's there is okay, electrician.
Then I want to say it's a smaller event space that's right there.
Which one? On farther south?
That probably that biggest one right there.
Okay,
would be, I think that's already in the event space.
that's already an event space. So what this faces is it backs up to the north, the parking lot that was the Los Reyes.
Yes.
So that large parcel, I think, is the Los Reyes. I forget the name of it now. So before our next meeting, we'll want to familiarize ourselves, I think, with what surrounds this. But the purple track is an older, is it abandoned industrial or is it active?
Still
industrial?
actively used, but yes, it's still active, but
Okay.
it's an older facility, industrial facility.
So where you access this event center is on Elk Street, and I believe the business owner is hoping to use just to the north parking from what was the Los Reyes, and then just to the east, there is a parking lot, and there's no, I mean, you can't even tell the boundary there of the property line. He was hoping to, I think, lease or purchase parking spaces there too, and then more parking to the south. That was my understanding. Is that your understanding, Ethan?
That's my understanding of after speaking with the petitioner. But again, I would say that through the building process, any of the remodeling that would occur interior where they would create event space based on gross floor area, that's what our parking ordinance would address. So for every square foot that they develop, or every 1,000 square feet that they develop within this building for the event space to permit for that, and with their business license, they'll need to be able to provide parking for that number as part of this development.
What is that ratio?
Number of spaces per
1,000 feet.
I apologize. I don't know that number right off the top of my head for event centers specifically, but it's generally based on 1,000 square feet.
Okay. I'll look at it.
My understanding too is that the petitioner is already working on a parking plan. I just don't think it's been completed at this time, but Mr. Pangle has been working with the petitioner on some of the other permits that have to be achieved to allow this project to move forward. And so it is my understanding they're currently working on a parking plan.
Any other questions? And thank you, Councilmember Farrow, for reminding me it's a first reading. It's a habit. Any other questions of Ethan while we're?
I want to continue to have a dialogue and maybe
Yes.
if we have to table it to next meeting, I still have some concerns about it.
Certainly noted. I think it would be helpful if staff from the city could provide us with some slides of what type businesses are just to the east. And really anything that's contiguous to it would be helpful so that and then certainly we can all drive over there too and in the interim and look at it. There are no other questions of Ethan. This was a first reading. We'll move on to the next. Okay. Item number 12. First reading ordinance 24-30, the request of Eloy Moreno Jr. to rezone from high-density residential R7 to general commercial C2, a tract of land totaling 0.14 acres located at 709 McAfee Street, Dalton, Georgia, parcel 12-218-16-015.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This rezoning is, or was made in order to change the subject property zoning from high-density residential to general commercial for the purpose of creating commercial storage use of the subject property and potentially in the future, something of a convenience store the petitioner mentioned to us as well. When we look at this property, it is like a number of the properties in this area, rather small, quite narrow. And currently its character essentially is vacant with the exception of an accessory structure, basically a shed, and the property has been used for storage in the past. In order for this rezoning to be effective, for any of the development of the subject property to change, it would have to meet new development guidelines. It would have to meet the current setbacks. And when you multiply those by the width and the depth of the property, it's essentially a property that has somewhat of a hardship for any type of commercial use. It really isn't feasible to meet those setbacks and certainly not to include the buffers that would need to occur between the subject property if it were rezoned and essentially the three adjacent or multiple adjacent residential properties that surround it. And with all that in consideration, a future development map is for town neighborhood revitalization. And because of the inability to create buffers and separation from the residential properties, there are a number of issues with this property in regard to commercial zoning. So the staff recommendation in this case was for denial. The public hearing also did not have opposition, but did receive a negative recommendation from the Planning Commission. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Ethan? Okay, if not, we'll move on to number 13. First reading ordinance 24-31, the request of Octavio Perez to rezone from medium density single-family residential R3 to high-density residential R7, a tract of land totaling 0.45 acres located at 509 to 511 North Hamilton Street and 107 Waterworks Street, Dalton, Georgia, parcels 12-200-07-005, parcel 12-200-07-041, and parcel 12-200-07-042.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The request before us is a request to rezone again from medium density single family residential to high density residential. And in this case, the current layout of the subject property exists as two single family detached dwellings occupying each a single tract of land and a duplex occupying a third tract of land that the subject property encompasses. The petitioner's statement for requesting this was to bring the subject property into a state of conformity, as these are rental homes and the duplex would currently be or is currently in a non-conforming status. And given the subject properties being adjacent to the multifamily zone district to the south, the petitioner requested the R7 high density residential zone district, which single family would be permitted as a permitted use as well as duplexes. While there would still be some setback issues with the existing structures on the subject property from a use standpoint, the subject property would be in conformity. And in this area is another area similar to what we saw before, is a transitional area transitioning from the old historic Crown Mill District over to the west, transitioning east into the historic manufacturing area. And at this location, subject property falls on that point of convergence. and is adjacent also to the high-density residential zone district. When we look at the existing state of the subject property or its existing character and the zoning and land use in this area with this transition in mind, staff did not recommend a denial. We recommended an approval. And that was also recommended by the Planning Commission, and we heard no opposition from the neighborhood in this case. I will point out that with any future development of the subject property that would change its current state, any new development would have to comply with all the, again, setbacks and parking and stormwater requirements that would accommodate or go with multifamily development. So we believe that in the future, if this property were ever redeveloped by the petitioner or a future owner, that those regulations would be in place to make sure that parking and setbacks and so forth would be met. And the limited size of the subject property greatly limits its ability to accommodate very much density in addition to what already exists. Yes, sir.
I have a, Mr. Perez, isn't he on like the board for planning commission?
He was absent for that meeting, and there was someone that came with a power of attorney to represent him during
Okay.
that hearing.
I was just making sure that he didn't.
Yes, sir. No, sir. He did not vote.
Is this property adjacent to and north of the somewhat controversial rezoning of a couple years ago, the former grocery store, funeral home?
Correct.
Property
Correct. In fact, that's the property adjacent on the southern border of the subject property.
that's sort of the Blue Island.
Correct.
I just wanted to get my bearings.
Anything else for Ethan? If not, no, sorry.
Considered, even though that's blue, that wouldn't be considered an island or anything because that other one is already blue.
It is an island. It wouldn't be considered a spot zone in this case because it is a residential character and adjacent to residential. And the density and the other land uses like the light industrial and the heavy manufacturing that we have in that area. But yes, it is an island. It is an island of R7, and there is no other adjacent R7. There's sporadic islands of R7 throughout the Mill District.
Any other questions of Ethan? If not, thank you, Ethan.
Thank you.
Item number 14, intergovernmental agreement with the Dalton Whitfield Joint Development Authority for construction of the South Hamilton Residential Infill Infrastructure Project.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This was discussed at the prior Finance Committee meeting in August. Just to give you some background quickly, in February of 2023, the council adopted Resolution 2301, which approved the transfer of the city-owned property at 900 South Hamilton Street to the JDA for housing development purposes. That resolution also accepted a deed cancellation from Mohawk as to a green space requirement because JDA had presented this project to them for the consideration of affordable housing, and they vacated that deed encumbrance as part of that resolution. In October 2023, the city pledged support of $622,300 to go toward public infrastructure on this housing project. To break that number down, $22,300 went toward infrastructure design. That's already been completed, and we've already paid that directly to the design engineer. The balance, the $600,000, was reserved for construction expenditures for public infrastructure. So things that are in the right of way, roads, curbs, sidewalks, storm drainage, utilities, water and wastewater. The city pledged those funds because at the time, the JDA, as you know, was pursuing a One Georgia Rural Workforce Housing Grant. Later, the JDA was awarded the $1.5 million to fund the infrastructure for the project to help allow the housing project to move forward. And so what this intergovernmental agreement does today is several things, but it outlines the terms of the disbursement of city funds toward the project. So we had to memorialize how the $600,000 would be transferred to the JDA And what we have agreed on is that we would pay out in pro rata shares as construction completion is performed, that the city would make tranches of payments into a fund that's set aside by the JDA for this project. The JDA will be managing the project in its entirety, both the housing as well as the infrastructure. So they'll be the project manager. As part of this IGA, we will be reviewing the monthly pay requests that they submit. And if for eligible expenditures, public infrastructure will be making pro rata reimbursements not to exceed the 600,000. The other key thing that this does is it allows for the mayor to sign, to execute a deed to transfer title of the property to the JDA. So even though the resolution back in early February of 2023 allowed that, we waited until this point to go ahead and exchange deeds because at the time we didn't know, who would be building the roads, how they would be built. And so now that that picture has become clear that the JDA will be administering that work and we will be reimbursing them, we can go ahead through this IGA and transfer title to the property to the JDA. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Andrew? If not,
Motion to
Alder-
approve.
the motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There is no supplemental business before us. Announcement, the City of Dalton will hold a second public information meeting to provide an overview of the proposed changes to the city's alcoholic beverage ordinance. The meeting will be held Wednesday, September 11th, 2024 at 3 p.m. at Dalton City Hall Council Chambers. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.